Liquefaction of St. Januarius's blood. In Naples, Italy, there's a 1700-year-old mystery sitting in a small glass vial. Inside that vial, dried, dark red clots said to be the blood of St. Januarius, a Christian martyr from the 4th century. Most of the year, the substance stays completely solid, but a few times a year, during specific ceremonies, it turns to liquid right in front of everyone. Sometimes it liquefies even when the vial hasn't been moved. No shaking, no heat, no stirring. And this isn't a one-time thing either. It's been recorded for centuries. Sometimes the liquefaction takes just minutes. Other times it takes hours. Occasionally, it doesn't happen at all. And when it doesn't, locals see it as a very bad omen. Historically, the blood failed to liquefy before tragic events like World War II and deadly earthquakes. The church officially calls it a miracle, but skeptics have tried to offer explanations. Some say it's a clever chemical trick, maybe fixotropic material, which changes consistency when stirred. Scientists who've examined it through the glass say they can't confirm what's really inside the vial. However, the church doesn't allow opening it for a full analysis. The miracle of the sun. On October 13, 1917, 3 shepherd girls in Portugal claimed that they had an encounter with the Virgin Mary and that she would perform a miracle that day. Over 70,000 people gathered in a muddy field staring at the sky. Most of them were just ordinary locals. Some were religious and others were skeptical. Then it happened. The rain stopped, clouds broke, and the sun appeared, but not like normal. Witnesses said it started spinning in the sky, flashing different colors and zigzagging like a falling leaf. Some said it looked like it was hurling toward the earth before jerking back at the last second. And people didn't just see it, they felt it. Clothes that were soaked from rain dried instantly, and the ground became less muddy. Some even claimed to have been healed of illnesses. Newspapers from the time, including secular and anti-religious outlets, confirmed something strange happened that day. Journalists wrote about it. Scientists from different backgrounds gave conflicting opinions, but nobody had a solid explanation. A few scientists tried to blame mass hallucination, but that theory doesn't hold up well when tens of thousands of people across ages, backgrounds, and belief systems describe the same thing at the same time in broad daylight. Others claimed it could have been atmospheric optics or extreme sun gazing, but those don't explain why people saw it moving or why non-believers standing miles away should have looked directly into the sun for such a long time. The Catholic Church later declared it a miracle, and the location Fatima became one of the most visited religious sites in the world. Incorruptible corpses of saints. When a human dies, decomposition is usually non-negotiable, but in rare cases, some bodies just don't decay. These are known as incorruptibles, and while embalming can preserve a body for a while, many of these saints were never embalmed. Take Saint Bernadette Soubirous, who died in 1879. Her body was exhumed multiple times in the decades after her death, and it looked nearly perfect. There are no signs of decay, and even her hands and fingernails looked untouched. She had no embalming treatment, and her body had been buried in a damp wooden coffin. Today, her corpse is on display in Nevers, France. The skin has darkened due to air exposure over time, but the preservation is still considered medically inexplicable. Then there's Saint Catherine Labouré, who died in 1876. Her body was discovered to be completely incorrupt in 1933, 57 years after burial. Her eyes were intact and even her hair was still visible. She's now displayed in a glass coffin in Paris. A more recent case is Blessed Carlo Acutis, a modern teenager who died in 2006. When his body was exhumed for beatification, it was found to be in an exceptional state of preservation. While there is debate over whether light preservation techniques were used, the fact that a body buried for over a decade still showed no significant decay raised eyebrows even outside religious circles. It's important to note, not all saints are incorrupt, and not all incorrupt corpses are saints. Medical science can explain slow decomposition under certain conditions, cold, dry environments, sealed tombs, but in many of these cases the surrounding materials, like linen or wooden coffins, decayed while the body didn't. Some scientists hypothesize it could be waxy fat deposits or a rare bacterial process. If this is true, then the reason why this phenomenon is seemingly more prevalent in saints is simply because religious figures get exhumed more often than the average human. So we have a bigger case study. Marian apparitions. Marian apparitions are events where people report seeing the Virgin Mary. These events are often followed by messages, visions, or unexplained phenomena. Let's start with Our Lady of Zaytun, Egypt, 1968. For 3 years, a glowing figure believed to be the Virgin Mary appeared above the domes of St. Mary's Church in Cairo. Thousands of people saw it: Muslims, Christians, skeptics, tourists. The Egyptian government, which wasn't exactly promoting religious miracles, investigated it and confirmed the sightings. No projection equipment or anything alike was ever found. Skeptics called it mass hysteria, but mass hysteria usually doesn't leave behind photographs. Then there's the Our Lady of Akita, this time in Japan, 1973. A nun reported hearing a voice from a wooden statue of Mary. The statue then began to weep. Over several years, it was witnessed crying human tears, 101 times in fact, sometimes even in front of scientists, doctors, and skeptical journalists. The tears were collected and tested, human composition, complete with salt, proteins, and organic materials, just like someone had cried into a vial, but from a wooden statue. There was no water pipe and no secret mechanism was found. The Shroud of Turin. At first glance, it just looks like a long old cloth, but the cloth bears the faint image of a man who appears to have wounds consistent with crucifixion. Many believe it's the actual burial shroud of Jesus of Nazareth. The image is so subtle you can barely see it, but when you look at it in photographic negative, the image becomes much clearer and more human-like. That photographic discovery happened in 1898, and it shocked everyone. Now scientists have run a ton of tests on it. Radiocarbon dating in 1988 suggested it was from the 13th or 14th century, which would make it a medieval forgery. But that test was done on a section of the cloth that might have been repaired later, so it's not entirely clear. Other researchers argue that the image couldn't have been made with any known medieval techniques. There's no paint, no dye, no brush marks. The image seems to be a discoloration of only the topmost fibers, almost like it was burned or engraved into the fabric without any actual heat. Miraculous healings at Lourdes. Lourdes is a small town in southern France with one very big reputation. Back in 1858, a 14-year-old girl named Bernadette Soubirous claimed to have seen a glowing figure of the Virgin Mary appear in a cave near the village. She said the figure appeared to her a total of 18 times, and each time the message was the same: drink the water, pray, and seek healing. Since then, Lourdes has become one of the most visited religious sites in the world. Over 200 million people have made the pilgrimage there, many of them hoping for some kind of physical or spiritual healing. And here's where it gets strange, because in many cases it actually seems to happen. There are more than 7,000 documented claims of miraculous healings at Lourdes. People with paralysis, terminal illness, or advanced disease come to bathe in the spring water from the grotto and later report that their symptoms disappeared. However, the process of verifying a miracle at Lourdes is more rigorous than a lot of scientific trials. A special medical board made up of doctors, including skeptics and non-believers, reviews each claim. The healing must be instantaneous, complete, and lasting, with no medical explanation. Out of the thousands of claims, only 72 have been officially recognized by the Church as genuine unexplained healings. That might not sound like a lot, but for something labeled a miracle, that's actually a high number. Skeptics say these healings could be cases of spontaneous remission, psychosomatic conditions, or placebo effects, but even with all that considered, many of the documented cases involve conditions that have never spontaneously healed before or since, so it's at least fascinating. Thanks for watching. See the video on your screen? Well, YouTube thinks this one might interest you as well, so go ahead and check it out if you like.